this is Hersh Bhardwaj, and I'm here to talk about one of the major primary texts for UPSC English Literature Optional. This is going to be a quick summary and introduction to the text. I get a lot of requests from students to summarize books, which in principle I don't like to do, because UPSC asks you specifically to have a first-hand reading of the original text. This is what they say in their notification. And if you're not able to read an original text, then I'm afraid it's going to be really difficult for you to get a good score with the English literature. So do a good self-check that if you're not able to go through the original text of the syllabus, you should consider moving to another optional. There are no two ways about it. If you cannot read original texts and make some sense out of it, please consider changing optional, because the summaries and the guidebooks, they will not help you score in the UPSC exam. They are looking for an original assessment of the original text, and they will find out very, very quickly from your answers. However, I thought that it makes sense that I give you some background, some introduction within the view of framework of the UPSC syllabus. So whatever I'll be telling you is exactly what I'll tell my students. So Kanthapura is the third text that I tackle on my syllabus. The first is Passage to India, second is V.S. Naipaul, and third is Kanthapura. So all three are more or less connected with the Indian writers. So Kanthapura, written by Raja Rao, who was born in 1908 in Mysore, Karnataka, and he belonged to a Smartha Brahman class, and he was very well educated. His native language was Kannada. He could speak French and English as fluently. He taught all over the world, and he was a renowned novelist of the time. He won Sahitya Academy Award as well as many international awards for his works. Kanthapura, The Serpent and the Rope, The Cat and Shakespeare, and The Chess Master and his Moves are some of his main novels. He was also awarded Padma Bhushan in 1969. Not that it matters with your English answers. So Kanthapura came out in 1938. It's an interesting story, because Kanthapura is not based on a real village, but it's a stereotypical Indian village, right? Stereotyped by Raja Rao to bring a point across. So it's a remote South Indian village where the Gandhian philosophy arrives via the major protagonist Murthy, and the Gandhian philosophy spreads like wildfire, and the people eventually who were separate at the start of the novel, they were separate on the basis of caste and creed, they get united to fight for the freedom struggle of India. So basically, a lot of critics have said that this is a propaganda novel to spread Gandhian philosophy. A lot of Western critics have said that too. And so I don't know what Raja Rao's primary motive was when he wrote this novel. Only he knows. But it does look like a testimony to the success of Gandhian philosophy, even in a remote South Indian village where Gandhi probably never visited. So his voice transpired all over India. This kind of what the novel is trying to say. It's narrated in the form of a Sthal Puran, like in the oral tradition form of the Vedas and the Puranas, and narrated by an old lady named Achakka. And she is the voice of the narrator. She knows all. And just like Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vedas, Puranas were orally narrated in the Indian tradition, this is how this text was also orally narrated by Achakka. So that's one of the major stylistic factor of the novel. The village at the start of the novel is divided on the basis of dominant castes and the lower castes. So the Brahmins, the Parayas, the Kulis, they also have separate colonies. And they have all kinds of issues that a regular Indian village or Indian place of the time had. Women were also marginalized, and there is a distinct presence of the Britishers in the village in the form of Skeffington Coffee Estate, where all the coolies and the lower caste people worked. So the Murthy, the young protagonist, Brahman, who goes to city for studying, he gets exposed to the Gandhian ideas. He comes back wearing khadi, having done with the foreign clothes and foreign accessories, and starts speaking in his local language, discards English, and he starts speaking about the Gandhian ideas of caste system, non-violence, satyagraha. This does not go well, obviously, you can understand, in the village, and the village priest excommunicates him from the village, which is a huge shock for Murthy's mother Narsamma, and she dies. That was a huge shock for Murthy, and he goes into a shell for some time, and he starts to live with Rangamma, who's a young educated widow. She's the second most prominent character of this novel. So she is a woman, she's a widow, and Murthy and Rangama are living together. So it's you can imagine the kind of furor this must have created, not even within the novel, but also the readers of the time. So they are both thinking about independence movement and India's struggle for freedom. Then Murthy starts to preach the Gandhian ideas and the equality to the coolies and the pariahs in the Skeffington's coffee estate, which is run by the British. And there is a policeman named Bade Khan who's in charge of the village. When Murthy is doing all this with the coffee estate workers and the coolies, Bade Khan beats him, and in return, all the coolies get together and they beat Bade Khan, and the violence erupts. That is one of the major action point of the story. So when all the coolies beat Bade Khan, there is a violence everywhere. So Murthy takes a responsibility upon himself, and he goes on for a 3-day fast, and pleads everyone to practice non-violence. That is one of the pillars of Gandhian philosophy. Everyone gets together because of this, all the castes, all the people of the village, most of them, and the British government senses this as a spark for a wider movement. So they put the charge Murthy for inflicting violence, arrest him, and they put him in the prison for 3 months. They also offer him bail on certain conditions of negotiation, but Murthy denies their money and he goes to prison. When the Murthy goes to prison, this is when Rangamma forms a volunteer corps and gathers all the women of the town. And under the leadership of Rangamma, all the women and the other people also get together. So there is a theoretical concept that we discuss in the syllabus, which is the subalterns. Subalterns is the voice of the oppressed people within the colonial system who do not have their own voice. So all the women, the voiceless women and the voiceless coolies, they were given the voice by Murthy and Rangamma to fight the oppression of the British. Rangamma instills them with patriotism, nationalism, and feelings of independence, the aspirations for independence. When Murthy comes back from town, by then the Britishers do all they can to suppress this women's volunteer corps. Their assaults, rapes, the village is attacked and burned down. By the time Murthy comes back, he again preaches all the principles of non-violence and satyagraha. And they all get together. This is the end. They all get together and they take a pledge to continue their fight for independence with hope and excitement. So in a way, this story tells you about how a Gandhian idea reaches remotest corner of India, right? How his philosophy spreads like wildfire. How are people influenced by his philosophy? And then what his philosophy and what his ideas are. So UPSC always recurringly asks this question, that what are these Gandhian philosophies that inspired Murthy, which in turn inspired the rest of the village? This is one of the primary concepts. Then what is Gandhi's idea of India? So we're talking about 1938. So India was a conglomeration of 500 odd princely states. So what is this idea of India? So Gandhi's idea of India was based on non-violence, equality, and inclusiveness of everyone, be it women, be it lower caste, be it elderly, be it youth. Everyone was part of the inclusive India. So these are the two major concepts that you have to keep in mind while reading this book. Another is Raja Rao's use of English language to tell a very Indian story, which he did deliberately. He could probably write or get it translated into Hindi, but he wanted this to be in English, and he talks about the difficulties of doing this in English in the foreword. So that is a very, very interesting part. So you can buy any good edition. I read Penguin edition, and Penguin has. There is also an Oxford University edition, and they both have a very good introduction from a famous critic. So read that introduction is very important. Read the entire book. It reads like a very good story. And in the next chapter, next lesson on this text, I'll talk about the major concepts, past year questions, and how to tackle them. So I hope this quick whirlwind summary and introduction will help you to dig further in the text, pick up the original text, and start reading. Okay, and there is a lot of material online, but I urge you to focus your time on the original text first, and then do everything else. So read anything else after you've read the original text. So this video's idea is to give you that enough launching pad so that you can dig into the text and it'll make sense to you. So on that note, guys, thanks a lot for watching, listening, and I wish you all the best for your UPSC preparation and good luck for the 2020-2021 exams. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. This is Hersh Bhardwaj signing off.